Sunsets over Biscayne Bay by Oliver Hale. The humid air of 1885 Miami clung to Isabella Moretti's skin as she stepped from the carriage, her lace-gloved hand accepting the assistance of the coachman. The journey from New York had been arduous, by train to Jacksonville and then by stagecoach along the primitive Florida roads. But at last she had arrived at her destination, the grand home of her late uncle, Charles Moretti. The estate, positioned majestically along Biscayne Bay, was a testament to the fortune Uncle Charles had accumulated in his shipping business. White columns supported a wide veranda, and tropical plants framed the entrance like sentinels guarding a fortress of faded elegance. Miss Moretti, welcome to Biscayne House, greeted Mrs. Pembroke. The housekeeper, a woman of indeterminate age with steel-gray hair pulled into a severe bun. Your uncle's attorney, Mr. Alexander Reed, will arrive tomorrow to discuss your inheritance. Isabella nodded, her dark curls bouncing against her shoulders. At 22, she was now the sole heir to the Moretti shipping empire, a responsibility she had neither sought nor desired. Her passion lay in botanical illustration, capturing the delicate essence of plants on paper, not in ledgers and business transactions. Thank you, Mrs. Pembroke. I would like to freshen up before dinner. As she followed the housekeeper up the grand staircase, Isabella's gaze was drawn to a portrait of a man with eyes the color of the ocean at dusk. His expression was stern yet somehow vulnerable, as if the artist had captured a moment of unguarded emotion. Who is that gentleman? Isabella inquired. Mrs. Pembroke glanced briefly at the portrait. That is Captain James Blackwood, your uncle's business partner. He often stays in the East Wing when in port. Will I be meeting him during my stay? Indeed, Miss Moretti. The captain is expected to return from Havana within the week. Isabella's curiosity was piqued. She had heard stories of Captain Blackwood from her uncle's infrequent letters, tales of daring voyages and shrewd business acumen. Charles had written that the captain was a man of few words but profound action, someone he trusted implicitly despite his mysterious past. The following day brought Mr. Reed, a portly man with spectacles that seemed too small for his round face. He shuffled papers on the desk in Uncle Charles's study, clearing his throat repeatedly before speaking. Miss Moretti, your uncle's will is quite specific. You inherit everything, the house, the business, the fleet, with one condition. He paused, cleaning his spectacles with a monogrammed handkerchief. You must maintain the partnership with Captain Blackwood for a minimum of 1 year before making any significant changes to the business operations. Isabella's brow furrowed. Why would Uncle Charles impose such a restriction? He believed the captain's expertise essential to the company's continued success. Additionally, Mr. Reed hesitated, there is the matter of the missing ledger. Missing ledger? Yes, a record of certain investments. Your uncle mentioned it in our last meeting before his passing, but it was not among his papers. He indicated that Captain Blackwood might know its whereabouts. The plot thickened, and Isabella felt as if she had stepped into one of the Gothic novels she enjoyed reading during long winter evenings in New York. A mysterious sea captain, a missing ledger, and a tropical mansion by the sea, it was all rather dramatic. That evening, while exploring the gardens, Isabella discovered a small greenhouse tucked behind a stand of royal palms. Inside, exotic orchids bloomed in a riot of colors, purple, yellow, white, and red. She had never seen such varieties and immediately retrieved her sketchbook from her room. As twilight descended, she became so engrossed in capturing the delicate structure of a ghost orchid that she failed to notice the approaching footsteps until a deep voice startled her. You have your uncle's eye for beauty. Isabella spun around, her pencil clattering to the floor. Before her stood a tall man with broad shoulders, his face weathered by sun and sea. His eyes, the same ocean blue as in the portrait, regarded her with curiosity. Captain Blackwood, I presume? Isabella straightened, acutely aware of her informal attire, a simple muslin dress with the sleeves rolled up to avoid smudging her drawings. James Blackwood, at your service. He bowed slightly, then retrieved her fallen pencil. Charles spoke often of his talented niece. He showed me your botanical journals when they arrived. Isabella accepted the pencil, their fingers brushing momentarily. An unexpected current passed between them, causing her to pull back abruptly. I didn't expect you so soon. Mrs. Pembroke mentioned you were in Havana. The winds were favorable. His gaze fell to her sketchbook. May I? Hesitantly, she handed him the book. His hands, strong and calloused, handled the pages with surprising gentleness as he examined her work. "Extraordinary detail," he murmured. "You see what others miss." Something in his tone suggested he wasn't merely referring to her artistic abilities. Isabella reclaimed her sketchbook, suddenly self-conscious. "Mr. Reed informed me of the terms of my uncle's will," she said, changing the subject. "It seems we are to be partners." A shadow crossed Captain Blackwood's face. Charles was a wise man, though sometimes his methods were unconventional. I suspect he hoped to ensure the business remained intact. "Or perhaps he had other motives," Isabella replied, watching his reaction carefully. "Such as locating a missing ledger?" Captain Blackwood's expression remained impassive, but she noticed a subtle tension in his posture. "The ledger is not missing, Miss Moretti. It is protected." "Protected from whom?" "That is a conversation for another time. You've had a long journey, and I've just returned from sea. Perhaps we might continue this discussion tomorrow after you've had a chance to review the company records." With another slight bow, he turned to leave, then paused. "The ghost orchid. It blooms rarely and only at night. Few have the patience to witness its true beauty." After he departed, Isabella remained in the greenhouse, pondering his words. Captain Blackwood was not what she had expected. There was a refinement to him that belied his reputation as a rugged seafarer, and an intelligence in his eyes that suggested depths yet unplumbed. The following days established a pattern. Mornings were spent with Captain Blackwood reviewing the business operations. Afternoons Isabella dedicated to exploring the estate and its surroundings, often sketching the abundant flora. Evenings brought dinner with the captain, their conversations gradually evolving from polite formality to genuine exchange. She learned that he had been born in Scotland, orphaned young, and taken to sea as a cabin boy. Through determination and natural aptitude, he had risen through the ranks, eventually commanding his own vessel by the age of 25. Charles Moretti had recognized his potential and offered him partnership rather than mere employment. "Your uncle saw value where others saw only rough edges," James explained one evening, as they strolled along the bay, the water reflecting the fiery sunset. "He gave me the opportunity to become more than circumstances intended." "He had a gift for seeing people's true nature," Isabella replied, thinking of her uncle's unfailing kindness, "though I'm beginning to wonder if I truly knew him." "What do you mean?" "This missing ledger, Mr. Reed implied it contained records of unusual investments." James stopped walking, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Charles was involved in more than shipping goods, Miss Moretti. He used his wealth and connections to help people escape difficult circumstances." Understanding dawned slowly. "You mean he smuggled people to freedom?" "Former slaves seeking refuge after the war, political dissidents from Spanish colonies, Chinese laborers escaping harsh conditions, Charles provided passage and new identities." James turned to face her, his expression earnest. "The ledger contains names, dates, amounts paid. In the wrong hands, it could endanger many lives." Isabella absorbed this revelation, feeling a new respect for her uncle bloom within her. "Where is it now?" "Somewhere safe," James replied cryptically. "When the time is right, I'll show you. But first, I need to be certain of your intentions for the business." "My intentions?" Isabella laughed softly. "Until a month ago, I had no intentions regarding Uncle Charles's business whatsoever. I expected to live quietly in New York, painting my plants and occasionally selling illustrations to scientific journals. And now, she paused, considering. "Now I find myself the owner of a fleet of ships and partner to a man who clearly keeps many secrets." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Not secrets, Miss Moretti. Discretions." "Isabella," she corrected impulsively. "If we are to be partners, you might as well use my given name." "Isabella," he repeated, the name sounding different in his rich baritone. "Then you must call me James." As weeks passed, Isabella found herself increasingly drawn to James. He was unlike any man she had encountered in New York society, direct yet respectful, commanding yet considerate. She observed how the crew members regarded him with a mixture of awe and devotion, how the household staff brightened at his approach, how even the town merchants smiled warmly when he entered their establishments. One afternoon, while Isabella was sketching near the docks, she overheard two sailors discussing the captain. "Saved my family after the hurricane of '78, one said. "Never asked for repayment, just said to work hard and do right by others." "Same when my boy took ill," the other replied. paid for the doctor from Charleston, then gave me time off with wages continuing. These stories aligned with what Isabella had begun to suspect. Beneath James's reserved exterior beat the soul of a deeply compassionate man. That evening, a fierce storm rolled in from the Atlantic. Lightning illuminated the sky in jagged bursts, and thunder shook the windows of Biscayne House. Unable to sleep, Isabella made her way to the library, intending to distract herself with a book. She found James there, standing before the fireplace, a glass of brandy in hand, his expression troubled. "The Windward is due in port," he explained when she inquired about his concern. "Captain Miller is an excellent seaman, but this storm—" He trailed off, eyes fixed on the rain lashing against the windows. "Is there nothing to be done?" Isabella asked, moving to stand beside him. "Only wait, and pray, if you're so inclined." Without thinking, Isabella placed her hand on his arm. "I'm sure Captain Miller will navigate safely." James looked down at her hand, then covered it with his own. "Your confidence is comforting, though perhaps misplaced." "Not misplaced," she insisted. "Founded on observation of how you select and train your captains. You wouldn't entrust a ship to someone incapable." He studied her face, surprise evident in his expression. "You've been paying attention." "I've always been observant," Isabella replied. "It's necessary for accurate botanical illustration." "And is that how you see me? As a specimen to be studied and catalogued?" The question carried no offense, only genuine curiosity. Isabella considered her answer carefully. "At first, perhaps. You were an unknown element in my new life here. But now," she hesitated, aware of crossing into dangerous territory. "Now I see you as a man of principle and passion, who conceals both behind a facade of pragmatism." James's hand tightened over hers. "And you, Isabella Moretti, present yourself as a simple artist when you possess the mind of a strategist and the spirit of an adventurer." Their gazes locked, and Isabella felt the world narrow to this moment, this man. The storm raged outside, but within the library, a different kind of tempest was brewing. The spell broke when Mrs. Pembroke entered, announcing a rider had arrived with news. The Windward had reached safe harbor in Key West before the worst of the storm hit. Relief washed over James's features, and he released Isabella's hand. "Thank you for the company during my vigil," he said formally, as if their intimate moment had never occurred. Isabella nodded, recognizing his retreat. "Good night, Captain Blackwood." As she returned to her room, Isabella acknowledged the truth she had been avoiding. She was falling in love with James Blackwood. The next morning brought clear skies and an invitation from James to sail along the coast on his personal vessel, the Seraphina, a sleek sloop that cut through the water with graceful precision. "Uncle Charles never mentioned your skill as a sailor," Isabella commented as James maneuvered the craft with practiced ease. "There were many things Charles didn't mention in his letters," James replied, a hint of amusement in his tone, "including your stubborn determination." "Stubborn?" Isabella feigned offense. "I prefer resolute." "As you wish." His smile transformed his face, erasing years of care. "Charles also failed to mention your beauty." The compliment, delivered casually yet sincerely, brought warmth to Isabella's cheeks. Perhaps he thought it irrelevant to business matters. "Perhaps," James conceded, adjusting the sail as they rounded a point. "Or perhaps he knew that once I saw you I would find it difficult to maintain a strictly professional relationship." Isabella's breath caught. "And do you find it difficult?" "Increasingly so." The admission carried the weight of confession. "Which is why I have decided to show you the ledger today." They sailed to a small island, where James led her to a cave partially hidden by vegetation. Inside, behind a false wall, was a strong box containing the ledger and other documents. "These are the true records of your uncle's legacy," James said, placing the box in her hands. "Names of families reunited, lives saved, freedom secured. Charles was more than a businessman, he was a beacon of hope for those who had none." Isabella opened the ledger with reverent hands, scanning the entries, dates, initials, sums, and cryptic notations. What appeared to be financial records were actually chronicles of liberation. "This is why you protected it," she murmured. "This work is still dangerous." "Yes. There are powerful men who would prefer these operations cease. Charles's death was not entirely due to natural causes." Isabella looked up sharply. "What are you saying?" "I believe he was poisoned, slowly, methodically, after he refused to stop our humanitarian efforts. James's expression hardened. I've been investigating, but without proof. Why tell me this now? Because you deserve to know the truth before deciding whether to continue Charles's work. It carries risks to your reputation, your fortune, possibly your life. Isabella closed the ledger, a sense of purpose filling her. I may have inherited this business unexpectedly, but I'm beginning to think it was not without reason. These people need help, and we have the means to provide it. James studied her face, searching for any sign of hesitation. You understand what you're saying? This isn't like your botanical illustrations, Isabella. There's no erasing mistakes. Some things are worth the risk, she replied steadily. Uncle Charles believed that. So do you, and so do I. In that moment, surrounded by the evidence of her uncle's secret benevolence, Isabella made her decision. She would continue the work, honor his memory, and perhaps, in doing so, forge a new path for herself, one that combined her newfound purpose with her existing talents. We should return, James said after a prolonged silence. The tide will turn soon. The journey back was quiet, each lost in thought. As they approached the dock, James finally spoke. There's one more thing Charles wanted for you. He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small package wrapped in silk. He asked me to give you this when I was certain you would embrace his true legacy. Isabella unwrapped the silk to reveal a ring, an exquisite sapphire surrounded by diamonds. It belonged to your grandmother, James explained. Charles kept it for you, believing you would one day find someone worthy to share both your life and your purpose. Isabella looked up at him, understanding dawning. And has he found someone worthy for me? James's expression softened. Charles suggested that perhaps I might be that someone if you were willing, but he also insisted that the choice be entirely yours, with no obligation or expectation. I see. Isabella closed her hand around the ring. And what do you want, James? Beyond business partnerships and shared missions? He guided the sloop to the dock with practiced precision before answering. I want what I never thought possible for a man like me, a life with a woman who sees the world not just as it is, but as it could be. A woman of conviction and compassion, whose strength matches my own. A woman like me? Isabella asked softly. No, James replied, securing the boat and turning to face her fully. You, Isabella. Only you. The declaration hung between them, honest and vulnerable. Isabella thought of her life in New York, predictable, proper, controlled, and compared it to these weeks in Florida, chaotic, challenging, alive. She thought of James, his integrity, his dedication, his carefully concealed tenderness. I came to Florida expecting only to settle my uncle's affairs, she said, not to find a cause worth fighting for or a man worth loving. And have you? Found both? In answer, Isabella stepped forward, closing the distance between them. I believe I have, Captain Blackwood. Their lips met as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Isabella knew that this choice would alter the course of her life irrevocably. But as James's arms encircled her, she felt not trepidation but certainty. The future held dangers and difficulties, but it also promised purpose and passion. Together they would continue Charles Moretti's legacy, using the family business as a cover for their humanitarian work, all while building a life rich in meaning and love. As twilight embraced Biscayne Bay, Isabella and James walked hand in hand toward Biscayne House, their shadows merging into one against the glowing sky, two souls united by fate, choice, and the enduring power of unexpected love.